Hi, this is Kurt with Axtreme-Guitar, and for this video I'm going to be doing the next installation of my Beatles series, and we're going to be working on the song Day Tripper. So you likely noticed that in the intro I was playing two different guitar parts along with the drum part, having a little bit of fun with the song, but I will be going over both parts that I was playing on the guitar, so stay tuned. So at this point, I'm assuming that you are tuned up and ready to go. And what we're going to start out with is the main riff, because that's the first thing you hear when the song starts, is the... Now, I did put the other guitar track in there doing the chords. Now, they don't actually play that. It seems like they are all... both the two guitarists and the bassist are playing a version of. So I added that extra guitar part just so that if, for instance, you're not ready to be playing this main riff, you can play something. And it's good to know anyway what chords follow that riff anyway. So you're starting with that E7, and then when it switches to, you're playing the A7. So first off though, we're going to look at the main riff, and you're going to get a closer look at what I'm doing. So I'm going to try to catch an angle of me playing this so that you can see both my right hand and my left hand. And what I'm doing here, I'm going to keep the guitar pretty level. I have it on my right leg and I'm a righty. I choose this way because it gives me a better access to the upper portion of the neck, because that's primarily what we're going to be working in. Even when we go to the chorus and you end up doing chords down here, it's primarily from about the 7th fret up. So the first thing that we're going to be doing is starting on the open E string. That's the very first thing you hear when the song opens up. It's now they may pick out every single note, and that's really up to you. I choose to do a hammer-on in some of it. I am going to show you what I do. The very first thing is we're picking out that open E, and then 3rd fret, I go with my middle finger because it makes it easier for me to just roll right into the 4th fret. And it gives me that opportunity to roll right onto the A string where I'm going on the 2nd fret with my pointer. So again, open, 3rd, 4th, 2nd fret, A string. And because my pointer finger or forefinger is right here on that 2nd fret, the next thing I'm going to do is kind of roll my pointer finger back a little bit so that I can also get that 2nd fret of the D string, which is the 3rd string coming downward. Technically, it's the 4th string because you're supposed to count the strings from the bottom up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So without all of that technical jargon, it's just open, 3, 4, 2nd fret, A string, 2nd fret, D string, then open D string. So and from there, we're going to stick our pointer finger back on that A string 2nd fret. And then you see how my fingers are hovering over the other strings over here. I'm not fretting anything. They're just ready to do what they need to do, whatever that may be. In this case, we're going to put our ring finger down on the D string 4th fret. And it's actually shaped like a power chord, but I don't want them to ring together like a chord would ring together, because these are all individual notes that we're hitting. So we've gotten to that ring finger on the D string 4th fret, but we come back to the 2nd fret of the A string, and then we hit the open string, D string, and you can either hammer on, or you can just do what I just did and put your finger on the 2nd fret and pick out the individual notes. So here's one way of doing it. If we recap from the very beginning of that riff, it's and I just picked out each individual note. Now the way that I tend to play this on my own is, and I just hammered on to that 4th fret, hammer on to the 2nd fret of the D string. So I'm not doing a lot of extra things, but it just kind of seems to flow nicely to me, so I like to do it this way. So that's what I'm doing on the left hand. For anyone that wants to see more of the advanced techniques of what I'm doing, then the other side of that is my right hand. Now, you may have seen other videos that I've created where I talk to you about alternate picking. Now, that is something that I do to be more effective in my playing. Alternate picking helps me to prepare for the next strings that I work with. So what does that mean? If you watch my right hand, I'll try to play this slowly, and you can see in certain cases I'm doing a downstroke and then coming with an upstroke on certain things. So it's I did a upstroke right here, downstroke. Now that's the way I play it, but so the only time I used an upstroke there was on that that D string 4th fret. And why did I do that? Because it actually prepared me. An upstroke prepared me for the downstroke to go on the 2nd fret of the A string, and then I just do another downstroke to the D string, hammer on to the 2nd fret, or if you just wanted to pick out those 2 last notes rather than hammering on. So that's an extra little tidbit. It's good to at least be aware of it. Now, the next part of this riff is when they switch to starting from the A string, because we start on the E string doing, and then we go to the A string and we do the exact same riff. Now the cool thing is, it is the exact same pattern, same shape. It would just be like saying doing the exact same thing that you do on the very first one, doing the E, and moving it to the A string instead. So everything I just told you to do, doing it from the E string, do the exact same thing, just shifting your fingers down 1 string. And so once you get that down, then it's just a repetitive motion. Now the other thing to think about is you may be running into noise from other strings. Now that's where it comes into things like using your right hand to kind of what I call henpeck the strings. And I just bring my hand down, and usually it's my thumb or my pointer finger on either side of the pick that mutes the string. And every time I take my hand off of the string, I have this coming down. It's like they are on a seesaw or something, and if one is down, the other is up. It just helps to quiet or minimize the noise that you get from your strings. It's especially important when you're using gain, any kind of distortion. You're going to get a lot more feedback and unwanted noise from strings. So getting used to doing some of that kind of stuff, whether it's this lick or something else where you're doing other things, or even just playing, say, the chromatic. get used to playing those single note things without having the feedback or unwanted noise. After you've gone through the main riff, you're going to the chords. Now, you don't necessarily have to do this little hammer-on thing that I'm doing. All I'm doing is hammering onto the E string. You could just do a... So the other part that is important, though, is your right hand. Again, it comes down to your right hand techniques. You have to find on your bridge the area where you get the best palm mute that doesn't kill the notes that you're trying to muffle just a little bit. So when we look at the palm muting, if I just not fret anything with my left hand, I'll mute the other 5 strings and just focus on this E string here. I'm going to find where the strings are sitting on these saddles right here, because the sound starts from the strings right after that saddle. And so I want to stick my palm right in this general area here and find, like, if I don't have enough of my hand on this, there's going to be too much of the note. If I move it too far, there's not going to be enough. So it's a bit of a delicate process finding where you prefer the sound. So I'm just doing the E string at the top right now, but you could do the whole set of strings. Just so we have this F sharp, so we have one open strum, it's a down strum, and then plant that palm down there and palm mute for a few. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And you do that a few times, and then you come down to this A7 over here, and it's the same process. You're on the 5th fret doing an A7. It's a E patterned bar chord, but we're doing the 7th. So instead of a full A major, lift that pinky up and you get the 7th chord. And we're just going. And then we go a half step down, or if you're used to calling it upward, when you go up toward the headstock, we're going physically up this direction to the 4th fret, same position, so you don't have to change your fingers, you just move them. It's like a cookie cutter, you just move them. And do the same thing again. But next, they're going to change it to a D flat 7. So it sounds like a real complicated chord. Really all it is you're taking this A7 styled chord and you're moving it to the 4th fret, and you have these 2 fingers. Instead of doing a major looking bar chord, you're doing, and this is how I do it, I like to use my pinky and my ring finger instead of my middle and ring finger or some other variation. It just seems to be easier on my hand, and I have my pointer finger across, but my pointer finger is not on the E string because I want to really focus on making this root note that's on the A string sound over the note that's on the E string. And I'm doing that, like I said, A7 pattern here. So if we started off again from the F sharp, and then here on this D flat 7, we're not palm muting anything. We're just gonna, just a few of those downstrokes, and then you go down to the B7, and we're barring that just like we did the D flat 7. Just another cookie cutter style here on the 2nd fret, and the same thing, those downstrokes. Then you stop and go right back to that main riff. That, in a nutshell, covers probably more than 95% of the song. The next part that is different from the rest is the solo section. So for the solo section, they're just going to change the key to B7. So before that you were doing E7, and then you're going to the A7. So now we're going to go to the B7. So if we follow the rhythm guitar part, we're just going to be sitting on this B7 the entire time. My strumming pattern that I like to use is a... But you could just do... And so if I break that down, it's down, 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 up, down, up, down, down. And you repeat that over and over again while the little bit of solo is going on and then the singing in the background. Now if you wanted to try the solo itself, you're starting with a power chord on the 2nd fret of the A string and the 4th fret of the D string. So he hits that, just those 2 notes there. Now you see my hand look like it's coming down. I'm picking those 2, but coming outward so I don't hit the other strings behind it. So we have, like I said, this power chord, and then it to hammer on to the D string 1st fret. It's a little bit of a stretch there. I will play it in this way. So I hit the power chord and I do that hen pecking sort of action with my right hand to mute the string so I can take my hand off and do the hammer on to the 1st fret of the D string. And I pick it again when I get to that 4th fret on the D string. And then I go from the hammer on to the 4th fret, and then my ring finger leans back on that G string 4th fret. And then I come up to the 2nd fret on the G string, and then I climb down to the D string 4th fret. And I go, you see my pointer finger's back here, so it's right in place for the 2nd fret B string, which is the 2nd string. And I go, and I toggle back and forth between the 4th fret D string and the 2nd fret B string. And the last part is hammer on from pointer finger on the 2nd fret of the G string to the 4th fret of the G string. So that's a lot of explanation, but if I do it slowly, you can see it this way. Then the next part is kind of like a breath of relief, because it's like, oh, okay, now I'm just going to go from the 4th fret of the G string and put my pointer finger on the 3rd fret of the B string. So it's 4th fret, G string, 3rd fret, and so we use a bend there. And that's a full bend, because your bend starts on the 5th fret of the B string, and you need to make it come up to that note on the 7th fret. So we've got... So if you're new to bends, that's one way of getting there. It's not the easiest bend because it's closer to the top half of the fretboard. If you're playing acoustic, you're unlikely to get that bend, just because acoustic strings are usually so much heavier that it might just make it more sense for you to slide. Or you can just do the individual note. Just know that you need to go 2 steps further from that target note that you're landing on where you would ordinarily bend it for a full bend. So if you do bend it, you're going to bend and then release. And when I say release, that means you're not taking your finger off the string. You're just bending and bringing it back down. And notice how my palm is kind of facing this direction of the guitar, and when I bend it, I kind of twist it upward. You don't have to muscle it up to try to push it way up. The easier way to do it is I have these two fingers behind it. Some people will do it with both fingers on a fret, but I would recommend just having two fingers behind the fretting finger. It makes it a little easier for you to bend a string that way. And don't be afraid of breaking the string, because we're only bending it a full step. You're not going to break a string typically doing that, unless the string is old or it has some other issues with it. A general guitar string for an electric is made pliable for bending. As a side note, when I'm doing my bends, I'm keeping this right hand. This is again an advanced technique that you can take into consideration, because a lot of people, when they do a bend, they'll get the noise of the strings above that string you're bending. It could be that your finger gets caught under another string as you're bending, or even a fingernail catches a string. So what I end up doing is I roll this hand back so that my thumb is on the string above it. I'll pick, and then I'll kind of pull the string back, maybe just a little bit. Using the pick here, I can pull the string back a little after I've hit it, and it does two things. It keeps the string a little bit more out of the way, and it keeps it quiet. Even if my finger caught it, or if my finger got caught underneath it, it's not going to make a noise that is just glaring and out of place. So now we get past this part. So we're doing the what I was just playing there is 4th fret G string, 3rd fret B, and then back to the 4th fret G, 3rd fret B, and then 5th fret B, and whether you bend it or not, that's what I'm doing. And then back to the 3rd fret B, and then 4th fret G. And then from there, he comes down to the 12th fret of the B string, and he's going to the 10th fret on the E string with his pointer finger. Back and forth, you rock back and forth from the 12th to the 10th. And then it climbs up to the 12th fret on the E string, and again another bend. Back to the 10th fret on the E, and then 12th fret B. So like I said, when we were up here doing if we're up here, you can either bend it for a full bend, and if it's a full bend, like I said before, a full bend means the target note that we want to reach is 2 frets up from that where we're fretting. So in this case, going from the 12th to the 14th. So if we didn't want to bend, you could slide, but if a slide is not something you want to do, you can, just like I did before in this position, we'll do, you can either come down with your ring finger, then go to the 12th fret, to the 10th, and then go to the 12th fret on the B, or some other variation of that. I'll leave that up to you. So this part is for any of you who may be unable to get this riff down, or you're playing with another person that knows the riff, and and you want to play something different from them, and you can do the chords. You got this E7, which is a lot like an E major, which E major could fit, but it actually has a better voicing using the E7. And what I'm doing when I play it is you just follow the beat. So it's a down, 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 up, down, down, down. That's my pattern that I'm using. So and it would be the exact same thing when you switch to this A7. Notice that I'm in an up stroke here because right here is where I would change back to that E7. And so that finishes the tutorial on how to play the song Day Tripper in my Beatles series. I hope you enjoyed that. Feel free to leave comments. Let me know if there's a song that you would like to see in a tutorial. Like and subscribe to see more videos like this one. And I will see you next time.